Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the greatest podcast in the world, True Story. And you know what time it is, where it's time to get in to a very special one-on-one interview. And my guest at this time is the one, the only Alistair Iron Box Fleming. And we're about to get into it right fucking now. Break it down like this. And I was like, really? Like, baby face? And the heels were going on. Dude, I thought he broke his neck. The greatest podcast in the world. Yeah, welcome back. Greatest podcast in the world, True Story. This is the Truth Piers Austin, and I'm joined by the Iron Box Fighter himself. What's going on, bro? Good to have you on.
Hello. I am Alistair, the Iron Box Fleming. I'm a professional wrestler, amateur fighter, maker of high-quality mixed martial arts and professional wrestling gear. And I'm on the best fucking podcast in the world with Piers Austin. I'm excited.
Oh, man, I'm excited to have you on, man. Thank you for tuning in, bro. But I tell you what, man, you must have one of the busiest lives in anyone in pro wrestling and MMA. Like MMA, wrestling, making gear, and like I'm assuming as well, like put a shoot job in there.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so
most of my time gets eaten up by gear, if I'm honest. You barely see me. I think Ashken Mokhtarian. So I train at Australian Top Team at the moment, and Ash and Suman can count on their fingers and toes the amount of times they've seen me in the last 2 years. Whereas otherwise it's been wrestling and sewing mostly.
Yeah, right. When did you start like making gear? Like, was it just sort of something you just picked up, or was it like sewing and creating? When did that sort of side of it come into it for you?
So I started trading October 2020 at the Professional Wrestling Academy. And I was wearing the fucking volleyball knee pads for $20 from Rebel, which were awful. And if you're wearing them, don't. And I got a gift card from work, and the gift card was for $100, and I could spend it at Spotlight. And there was a sewing machine going for $100 at Spotlight. And so I thought I can pay this much money, get a pair of Trace clones from High Spots and get them in a month and a half's time, or I can try and make my own shit. And it was a terrible idea to start with, and I made some fucking awful knee pads, but now I think I make the best knee pads and gig pads in the country. Other stuff, there are other people who meet the quality or exceed my quality in terms of tights or singlets or shorts or anything like that, but no one makes gig pads like me.
Is it a competitive market in Australia for like wrestling gear and MMA gear?
MMA gear, yes, because you've got to compete with Pakistan, because everyone's always, they'll have called somebody up, they'll have found one of the websites and they'll put off their gear and they'll get some terrible fucking shorts that they'll charge too much for. I did actually manage to sell a set of 6 Valley Tudo shorts to Australian Top Team, and I'm really happy about that. But wrestling gear, not really. If you want to start making gear, get into it, because you'll fill up. There'll be more work than you can do, because I know that Lex Seamstress, always full. Dinky Dye, always full. Luna Wrestling Gear, always full. Tyler Gunn, currently living in a bin, but also always full. And me, always full. Like, if you call me up and say, oh, Alistair, I want some gear, and I'll be like, cool, I'll start it in 3 months. You're on the board.
Yeah, right. Geez, so there's a definite like high demand for it. So,
and the problem is, like, I'm in demand overseas now. I've made some stuff for Kai Drake led to Charlie Evans. I made some stuff for Charlie Evans, which you wore in Japan. And then Akira and a few other guys in Japan saw that match, and they were like, oh, where'd you get your fucking gear? And so now the stuff that Akira's been wearing for the past however many months, I had a match against Steph DeLander and the indie god, Matt Cardona, where he was wearing my stuff. And so,
oh, wow.
Yeah, there you go. Like, it's gone. My gear will go significantly further than I'll ever go in my wrestling. But yes, now you've got to. Everyone gets charged the same. Everyone gets the same sort of treatment in my eyes. But you got to compete with people from everywhere sending me messages, and you got to get in ahead of time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's crazy. So, but so you started training, like you said, the Pro Wrestling Academy. And you got the sort of stuff to start, making your own knee pads and gear and stuff like that. What was it like going? Because you came from an MMA background into pro wrestling, right?
Yeah. So I've been fighting. Started training in 2013 at Prodigy MMA in Artarmon. Great gym if you ever want to go. Not sure if it's the same location. It used to be overlooking a brothel or a strip club or something. So sometimes people would get distracted in the middle of sparring. Just their eyes would wander out the window, and then you just clock them just to remind them where they were. But no, I started training there, and so I've been going for up until 2019 was my last fight on Storm Damage. Yeah, up against Matty Pitchler. So between then and then, fairly active amateur career. You'd see me on grappling competitions and all that sort of thing. And then what happens in 2020? What happens in late 2019? What happened to all of us? Yeah.
The fucking... we'll go into lockdown and shut down everything. Yeah, the world's...
Yeah. So my gym in Orange, which is where I was living, was 2800, run by a great guy. We had some fucking badasses come through there. Charlie Bubb. So he currently trains with Rob Whittaker at... what's
Smeaton Grange?
Yeah, Smeaton Grange. Well, at least I've seen him in photos at Smeaton Grange, fighting for Muay Thai world titles. Jesse Astle, fighting for Muay Thai world titles. A guy called Leo Ilalio, not so big on the scene now, but he made a fucking splash when he showed up. Super heavyweight, knocked out Dion Big Sexy Mooney in like 40 seconds.
I think I saw that clip.
You probably did, because he just...
Yeah, I remember seeing that clip.
Just
that's crazy, man. Like, but what made pro wrestling be the next thing for you? Like, was there, were you just thinking MMA wasn't for you at the time? You wanted to, like, what?
So I moved up to Sydney and I signed up for ATT, so Australian Top Team. And then I saw an advertisement for the pro wrestling tryout at the Pro Wrestling Academy. And then I also saw, $1,600 or $1,800 for a 10-week course from TNT out at AWF training at the UFC gym in Blacktown. And I thought, I can pay a weekly fee or I can pay $1,800 up front and not know whether I like it or not. So that was how I made the PWA decision. But the thing that got me into MMA was watching Bas Rutten's Pancrase fights. So for those that don't know, Pancrase was a shoot organization that came out of, by extension, New Japan, then the UWF, and then Pro Wrestling Fujiwara Gumi. That became Pancrase. And guys like Minoru Suzuki, Masakatsu Funaki, Ken Shamrock, those guys were all from there. So my introduction to mixed martial arts was finding those fights on YouTube. And so, my introduction to martial arts was, in fact, pro wrestling. Just shoot rather than worked.
I remember seeing the UWF back when I was a kid, and that was like, it was like, you were just watching it like, what is this? Like, it's not pro wrestling, but the personalities are there. But you know what I mean? Like, it was something so, at the time for me, I was a kid when I saw it, I was like, this is so wild.
It's the coolest fucking thing, in my opinion. You can't get better wrestling than that, because this is drilled into a wrestler. You always got to believe what you're doing. You got to believe that it's real. You got to show that you got to throw that strike like it's a real strike. You got to do that move like it's a real move. You got to feed up for the next one like you're struggling to get up, not I'm getting in position for the next move. It's that taken to the logical conclusion without ending up being a shoot, if that makes any sense. And a lot of that is, in fact, just not cooperating with each other. We know where we're going to get to. At the end of this match, you've got to beat me by an armbar. But fuck you, I'm not helping you get there. You've got to get me there. And
you got to work for it.
Exactly. And I think we work so hard to make fake things look real that the Ouroboros is eating its own tail. Sometimes it's just easier to do it for real a little bit. I actually had that. So I was on the new pro wrestling pre-show a little while ago, and a match against a guy called Edgar Swain. And we were talking about how to sell the finish, because I finished him with a double wrist lock, hence the fucking shirt. Buy my shirt. He was like, oh, how do you want me to sell this, bro? And I said, don't let go. Do not give it to me. I can get it on you. I can get this on. If I have this position, I can get this on any human in the world. Hold your fucking hands together. And so that's what he did. And you can see us fighting for me to get that final grip to get the double wrist lock. And my chest is popping and I look fucking shredded. And he looks like he's fighting and he doesn't want to let the fuck go. I put it in a safe position. This was a safe move. We weren't shooting. We weren't fighting. But we weren't helping each other. And I think that looks better than quite a lot of the work submissions that you'll see out there. Even from the best guys. Because it's very hard to sell that reality, that struggle.
I mean, I saw a submission, and I can't remember the match, but it was on, I think, WWE television, and it was like, that just looks, no, that's terrible. Like it looked, you know what I mean? Like it was like almost like a weird like chin lock like that, but the person's head is like up here and like the wrists are down. Like I'm like what are they doing?
It doesn't
this
look
was being held by the forearms, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't look. You can do so much in a submission to make it look real and serious and dangerous while keeping your wrestling partner safe. So I'm going to put myself hopefully in frame here. Okay, there we go. So here's my arm. Here's a hole where somebody's neck is going to go. If I want to have my imaginary person here, I can put on a rear naked choke fairly loosely, but look like I have the whole grip. If I actually want to tighten this up, I need to roll this arm over. I need to roll this arm over. And you see how that hole shrunk. So now the neck's in here and they're being choked. But the difference between this and this, not very much. I can make this look serious, but keep the person safe. I feel maybe there's concern. Maybe there's concern about injury. Wrestlers are always fucking injured. But maybe there's a concern about that. Maybe there's a worry that, the person won't feel safe in this when they're locked up. They might feel vulnerable. A lot of our chains very loose. I think that especially for finishes or like false finishes, or if a submission move is your fucking move, you need to do 10, 15 things to like break an arm or hyperextend an elbow or choke somebody out. You just do 5 of those things and it looks like solid and tight, and you just skip the ones that are like finishing or breaking mechanics. Anyway, UWF, that's how I got into pro wrestling. And so like I came up to Sydney, I saw that ad, I'm like, maybe if I spend a little bit of time in the professional wrestling scene, I can run one UWF Australia event. And that is the one and only goal of my professional wrestling, is to run one show where it's top to bottom shoot style. And we just treat it like it's a fight.
Yeah. But for pro, I don't know, like, because like UWF and Pancrase was like, there was particular type of striking, like palm strikes. And like it was like a shoot fight. It was pretty much like MMA with no gloves, except like modified rules.
Exactly. And as long as I have predetermined outcomes, I don't need to talk to Massa, or don't need to talk to IceCare. I don't need to have it sanctioned by Combat Sports Australia. I know most of the people that I'd like to book on that show. I've developed relationships with a lot of the people that I do want to book in that show. It's a money thing at this point, and it's continuing to develop my reputation as a person that you can trust in Australian wrestling. Because in this hobby, not going to call it a business because no one's fucking making money. In this hobby, trust is paramount and so important. And I understand that I can't just come in as some dude and say, oh, by the way, I want you to work this style that you've never worked in front of a crowd that I can't guarantee I'm going to sell. In a building that I can't guarantee that I'm actually going to hold on with insurance I can't guarantee I paid off. That's a fucking ridiculous idea to do. Don't do that if you're trying to promote a show. No. Yeah. I understand that I need to build that reputation, and getting out there, working traditional matches safely without injuring people, and building those relationships. That's what I'm doing currently.
Is there any professional wrestlers in Australia that you would put on that show in a shoot style environment?
All right, top to bottom, let's go. Gore, 100%. Xander Sullivan. The match your and my first interaction was at the Pro Wrestling Academy on the first Green Label show back from whenever it was. Sort of a friends and family show. I had a match with Xander Sullivan, and for the first 40 seconds of our match, it was, we're just doing whatever, bro. Just go nuts. Because that was a guy who can wrestle. That's a guy, since his time at Fale Dojo, he's learned to kickbox. He has submissions. We've had a couple of shoot rolls together. That is a guy that can fit on that show. I'd probably get him one of his old singlets rather than the Illuminator, but I put him on that show. I'd love to have DSK on there, but there are some problems with that. There are some problems with his social media. There's some problems with some friends that I have that do not line up with DSK's view of the world. And that's unfortunate, but that's life. If DSK was a different person, I'd love to have him on the show. I'll happily wrestle him, but I can't book him, if that makes any sense.
What is it about him that makes him unbookable for you?
It's not him. I've seen him wrestle. It's fucking great. I love watching DSK wrestle. I've seen him fight. I love watching DSK fight. He's so good at jiu-jitsu. It's he's doing less of it now. The last time I checked his pro wrestling, but he went slightly mad during COVID, in my opinion. He can tell me I'm wrong. He can tell me that I'm the insane person. That's his prerogative. But there was a lot of stuff on there that was about lizard people and us getting trapped and all that sort of thing. I don't think he believes it. I think he lines up with the fact that he wasn't able to do a thing that he loved, and he rejected that was what was happening to him. It happened to me too. And he struck out against the people that he saw that the fault of the people that was. I don't think it's there on his actual Instagram. It was mostly in stories and reposts from other people, but it was there. And I can't book a show and invite my non-binary friends from Orange. I can't invite the drag queens that my girlfriend does pole with. I can't invite them to that show and say, oh, by the way, don't look up DSK's Instagram.
Yeah.
Look, but I do not deny him his ability to wrestle on other shows. That's not what I'm going to say, if that makes any sense.
No.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, he's a phenomenal wrestler.
He's so fucking good. Yeah, he's great.
And like I've seen bits of his jiu-jitsu like on social media, and he's so good. Like I've actually said I wanted to go and just roll with him because it's been years since I've like rolled jiu-jitsu. But I love it. I mean, like 41 years of age, I don't want to go to a gym where there's a bunch of killers that are just going to like tap me out in 30. You know what I mean? Like I want to go and roll with someone who I know is not going to kill me as well. So,
well, DSK would fucking kill me if we rolled together. I'm telling you right now, the shape I'm in, the shape he's in, way better than I am currently.
Oh,
I'm telling you that right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I guarantee he would kill me. But I'm saying, like, I know that.
He'd do it in a very nice way. He'd look after you.
He'd take it easy on me. It's like, yeah, because it's no, like, there's no point. But
exactly. Yeah. Back to people on that show. Yes, Istria would be great. Don't know if I could afford him. Sam Osborne, great. Don't know if I could afford him. Jack Andrew Arthur, he and I have a great chat, good time talking about judo in like professional wrestling, what it's for, what actually constitutes an uranagi, what we think of in wrestling as an uranagi isn't an uranagi. Ah, shit, I've turned off.
We lost the camera.
Yep. Just 1 second.
So Jake Andrew Arthur.
Jake Andrew Arthur, we talk about judo and what's an uranagi all the time. What we think of in wrestling as an uranagi, not an uranagi. There's no back arch. An uranagi is a modified suplex. Love to have that guy on the show. James Long, Andrew Washburn, otherwise known as Andrew Fukar, currently training and wrestling with them at Wrestle Strong Dojo. Great fighters, solid wrestlers, could work the style. And Jordan Sansom, so I went down to Melbourne November last year for a Mad Earth Society show and got off the plane, found my hotel, went off to the Tallbone Moose Brewery, talked to Joel, talked to all the DMDU people, and then I went up to Jordan and I said, this is what I want to do in our match. I just want to fight. And then we go to the finish. And then I said, in the middle there, we might do some chops or something to keep the crowd happy, but otherwise, we're just kickboxing, we're just wrestling. And he said, fuck yeah, bro. And the crowd of drunk people, just not wrestling fans, just patrons at a pub, loved that little match and enjoyed it. And I took one bump. It was great. It was an excellent little match. And so that's another guy that I have on show. I don't know if I have him up to 8 yet, but I'd love to run an 8-man tournament with most of those guys.
That'd be pretty cool. Gore especially, who just looks like a fucking killer.
Oh,
like he's probably the one of few people in wrestling who just looks like he could just fucking eat your children or like just you know what I mean? Like he just looks so impressive.
And not long ago, Xander was supposed to have that kind of match with him because I was rolling with Xander a lot to get ready for that match. Yeah. And then that was one of the events. I think that was the event where DMDU found out they got scammed by the people and they had to cancel that Footscray event and all of that shit happened. So that was the first of the many postponings and cancellations that are hopefully starting to cool down now for them.
Yeah, I mean, they went through it, bro, and to be honest, like they still owe people money, from what I know, and yeah, I don't know.
It's wrestling. If they keep running the Mad Earth Society shows, they'll get ahead, and I think that's what they need to do because there are no overheads for those shows. They just turn up, they get paid a flat fee by the venue, they put on a very lean show that doesn't require fucking a bunch of crew to turn up and not get paid, and doesn't require a truck to be rented, doesn't require all this other overhead shit, and they can just run that and get ahead. And that's what you need to do, especially when you're falling behind.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot though with that where wrestlers are like who were there from the start have just fallen away from it as well. Like a lot of people have just fallen away, and it's unfortunate. I think the best thing for them is to probably just go away, regroup, come back, and in a year or so's time, and maybe even under a different name, because I think everyone's been, but also making sure that they pay the money back to the people that they pay back. So, but that's a pretty big nut to pay. So,
from what I understand, they're going ahead. And as a man who's done business with Joel Bateman enough times, never screwed me over. Paid me above my rate for that match. Every time I've made gear for him, payment has been on time. So it's starting to come back together. But, if this is the nature of professional wrestling in Australia, it doesn't make money. Not for very many people. Not unless your name's Hunter Hayes and you've got everything figured out. Not one person is making money from events, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've said the same thing in previous podcasts where it's a passion project for 99.9% of people in Australian wrestling. And that's not a bad thing. But like, let's be honest, how many people are actually making a full-time living off wrestling, or what company is at least paying someone a full-time wage
to either wrestle or run the company or anything like that? Not one. Not even the biggest ones in the country. Just, like Jack J. Bonza owned a pest control business, and that's what pays his rent. Everybody's got a day job. And I think there is a danger from that we hold on to a lot of the attitudes and the practices that were relevant when professional wrestling was a business. And there was money to be made, and there was a danger of too many people working, too many shows, diluting the product to a point where somebody couldn't make a living. That's already fucking happened. No one's making a living. So I think that an old school attitude of keeping people out of the business, not necessarily one that we need to maintain in this day and age, given that it is a hobby. And if we're to be unkind to ourselves, if we're to look at the original meaning of the word mark, a mark was a person at a carnival who had a piece of chalk drawn down their leg by a carny worker that would mark them out to the other workers and say, this guy is gullible, this guy has money, chase after him. If we're to look at who is a mark by that definition in terms of putting money into the business, I am a mark. I paid $40 a week for 3 years to the Professional Wrestling Academy. That's more money than anybody paid for tickets. That's more money than most people have put into merch, because I bought a couple of shirts there. If there's a person keeping PWA afloat, it was me and people like me. And I think that if you're running a gym associated with a promotion and you're a rookie there, you need to look at what you're putting in and whether or not you're going to get that out in terms of enjoyment. Because the old business of running a show at a club, making enough money to that to pay for the next show doesn't happen. You might break even. You might make $1 or $2. You might make enough for some beers. And I think that the people who own those gateways into wrestling need to examine their attitude and practices towards the people that are paying them the money that keeps their doors open, that keeps their gyms open. Because if I was to run a martial arts gym the way I see a lot of professional wrestling schools run, the way I saw the best one in the city, the state, in my opinion, for learning how to wrestle, run, it wouldn't stay open. Because the attrition's too high. You lose too many people. And not just at the start, not when they come try out pro wrestling and go, oh, I liked the idea of this, I don't actually like it. You're allowed to lose people, but not quality people, not wrestlers, not people who've gotten over that hump and do obviously love this. You need to break down that friction between them wanting to be a wrestler, learning to be a quality wrestler, and actually getting on a show. There's a big chunk of friction between the last two of those. and keeping the business alive with our gym fees.
Sure.
Break that shit down, because that's how you keep us on.
So did you feel like, you're paying the fees and you weren't getting booked, or was it you're paying fees, not getting booked and treated a certain way? Like, what was it that was really, the
not being
stand-up?
booked isn't my problem. That they're a promotion. That's their prerogative. They don't have to book everyone. I felt there was a negative attitude towards approaching other promoters and getting booked in other places if they weren't from a select list and you weren't on a select list of people that had reached a certain point to go. So I went to ICW Central West. Not the biggest promotion in the state, perhaps the smallest, runs one show every 2 years and is attached to a promotion that used to be a bit better, if we're going to be kind to ICW. I like the people there. Their product needs an improvement, in my opinion. But I made some gear for High Octane, for the Vortex.
Mm-hmm.
I made some gear for Barry Blake. And this had come out the other end of the big, long COVID lockdown. And for that 6 months, I think I learned more about being a professional wrestler in that period than I had in terms of like the actual business of going out, getting bookings, making connections, the shit that actually gets you on shows.
100%.
Because we couldn't learn to wrestle. So this was great. This was great information from the Pro Wrestling Academy. This is how to get on a show. This is how to approach people. This is what to do with your social media. I learned so much about social media from Shaz and McKenzie. I learned so much about putting together like a promo. I got a decent camera. I got a light. I have a little backdrop set up that I shoot my promos on. I learned that from Jax Jordan. I learned so much. And then I put that into practice. And I got put on this show. And then I got back. And there was heat. I hate the fucking word heat. I hate that I use the word heat. There was petty interpersonal conflict.
Which show is this? This is the show that I announced you?
Before that. So that was September of 2022. May or March, can't remember, of 2022, I went down to Cowra because I was dropping off some gear. This was the weekend of the big floods. And I'd been told, if you're going to a wrestling show, always bring your gear. There might be a spot. So I brought my gear with me when I went down to Cowra to deliver this gear, which I had to deliver by a certain time to Barry Blake. And the floods happened, and somebody got washed out. Somebody was coming down from Newey. I don't want to say Adrian Axton because he was actually in the main event. It was somebody else whose name starts with an A.
Yeah.
And he wasn't there. And there was a spot for me that came up. And of course, I'm going to say yes to that because I want to wrestle. And by this point, I had been at the Pro Wrestling Academy for 2 years. I'd been brought up to the class of wrestlers, if that made any sense.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It was at some point, there will be a Green Dingo spot for you that will open up. Okay. When's that some point? At some point. What do I need to do to make sure it's me? At some point, it will open it up. So there was no information. So I got told how to approach wrestling by your coaches, by people here. I was instructed how to do this. I put that into practice. And I got back to the Professional Wrestling Academy after putting on a competent match that was safe, not getting injured, not taking moves I didn't know how to take. The match is fine. It's on my YouTube channel. You can watch it, and you can watch that, and you can get to the end of it and go, that was a wrestling match. Those two guys were new, but nothing bad happened. There was Kai Drake and Big Fudge found me after that. And they said, this was disrespectful to Robbie and disrespectful to Mick and disrespectful to your coaches that you have taken this before you got the box ticked. Imagine if you had taken this as a mixed martial arts fighter, you'd taken a fight before you were ready. And that clicked me the wrong way because at Prodigy MMA in Artarmon, I had been training for 6 weeks and a Sambo comp came up and Damien Jeffries came up to me and said, Alistair, there's a Sambo comp. You're going to lose, but we want to bring you because it's going to improve you and make you a better wrestler. Or a better fighter. And I said, yes. And I went to that Sambo comp and I lost, but then I made a big jump and I got way better. And the same thing happened with the wrestling. I was like, this is what it feels like to have a crowd respond to what I do. And I got better. I think that the closed nature of promotions, the closed nature of the relationships between those promotions, some of which is legitimate because some people have treated each other poorly, some people haven't paid each other. There's all this garbage going on. Some of it isn't. Some of it, which is written off as heat, a word which I dislike, is just petty shit from 10 years ago that doesn't fucking matter. And you need to have good relationships. You need to have people going out and gaining experience. You need to have your shit matches so that if you eventually book me on a PWA Black Label, I've got all my shit matches out of the way. I can have my good one. But this was not the attitude of the company. This is fine. This is the attitude that they're allowed to have. It has reached the point where my goal as a professional wrestler, which is to run one show in Australia, is not aligned with the goal of the Professional Wrestling Academy. The goal of the Professional Wrestling Academy is to produce wrestlers that get signed. Jack Bonza told me as much to my face at the last session that I attended. Those are two different things. So, now from May 2022 to November last year, I was treading water. I was like, maybe I can make this work. Maybe I can make this work. Maybe I can align my goals this way. That did not happen. I talked to JT. I talked to Robbie. I said, this is what I want to do. They were both like, we don't do that here. And so I am no longer with.
So what is it that you actually said you wanted to do?
I said I wanted to wrestle for as many other companies as I possibly could and get all my shit matches out of the way. Robbie told me, do what you want. And JT told me, I don't know why you feel uncomfortable about this. We encourage people to go other places. And I'm like, do you though? I have wrestled in other places. I do not feel like I did not receive encouragement. So, like, possibly we were talking past each other. Possibly I'm a big fucking idiot and I've dug myself a hole I'll never dig out of in terms of PWA. That's okay. I'm allowed to do that. But this was the attitude that I saw from the promotion. It was not the one that I have. And I quite frankly think that there were, between May 2022 and November, we had a whole show of people that you announced that weren't ready for PWA Black Label. But were they ready to wrestle? No, there was one person in there that definitely wasn't ready to wrestle. But was everybody else ready to wrestle on a show? There you go. And then we did another show after that, and everyone was even more ready to wrestle on another show. But we were not encouraged to go out and seek those relationships. And I do not think that is conducive to a good career as a professional wrestler. I don't think you can stay in the one place or in one little box. It's not going to lead you anywhere.
So, but what if you, like, because we see people from PWA getting booked on Slam, Newey Pro, Rock and Roll.
Well, let's look at Slam. Who owns Slam? Mikey Broderick. Who is Mikey Broderick in a grand faction with? Robbie Eagles. There is a series of relationships that are approved, that are ticked, that are okay to go across and work. But even Newey Pro, I've gone up to Newey Pro quite a few times. I've received the occasional pre-show booking from there. How many of those shows are in Sydney? How many of those shows are happening every weekend? How much of that? And the thing is, are PWA genuinely in competition for the same crowd that any other promotion in Sydney is chasing after? Not once. No. So there is no reason for a promotion that has 40 wrestlers comfortably holding on to any one of them, because they all want to come back. PWA is the place to work. You talk to people. Well, shit, I'm throwing my earphones places. If there's anywhere to work in Australian professional wrestling in Sydney, people want to work on that show because it is the best produced. Is it not?
I mean,
EWA is catching up. They have enough money behind them to actually put on a good, solid show now with not at house lights. But that's twice a year.
I mean, PWA has the best production in the country, and without a doubt, and it's leveled up as well. Like
it's gotten better all the time.
A year or two, like those like overhead drone cameras and shit. Like that's not even done in wrestling. Like their production is on like above par on so many different levels. And if you look at indie wrestling around the world, there's no production like that.
Exactly. So everybody wants to work there. You're not going to lose anybody. You don't need to hold on to people the same way. But I think it is an attitude that is a holdover from an older time of professional wrestling, where you did need to hold on to people, where you were going to lose people. Yeah, I could be talking shit.
But that is an old school way of doing things, and I've heard of promoters like telling performers not to take bookings or not to do things like that. But I feel like if you're being trained by a certain place and you're at a particular level where you can go out and you can have a safe match, and if they say, hey, look, we have plans for you and we want to debut you as this XYZ type of character, great. Put on a hood, go out there and be, El Australian luchador or something. You know what I mean? Like it
exactly.
There can be ways around.
If I felt there were plans for me, I would have stayed, if that makes any sense. But there were none, and that's okay. That's their prerogative as a promotion. But as a place that I am training to learn to wrestle, I am at a point where I am a competent wrestler. It's all right. Well, we're gonna ruin my reputation with martial arts gyms now. Pollitt's in Orange have trained some really good fighters. I've seen a few of them. I have rolled with a few of them. I have had sparring matches with a few of them. Not one of them has debuted as a fighter because Pollitt's has a very closed environment. I think that's a fucking waste. I think you're wasting those people's money. I think you're wasting those people's talent. It's a waste, and I don't think PWA is quite that bad, but definitely not as bad as Pollitt's in Orange. But I still feel we have wasted good wrestlers.
Do you feel like have you seen people leave the business altogether that could have been good?
Yeah. How many Green Dingoes have become actual wrestlers? If you look at the original roster of wrestlers, a few of them have gotten through, not all of them, and a bunch of them don't wrestle anymore. And that's not people who didn't love wrestling. They got through core. Core is terrible. If you don't like wrestling, you're going to get to the end of our introduction, PWA's introductory class, and you're going to be like, this is actually not an enjoyable experience. If they got through that, they're at a point where they actually want to learn to be a wrestler and they want to put in the time. And if they got up to the point where you were putting them on green label shows and then they drop out, it's not that they didn't want to wrestle. It's that there is friction between what they want to do as a wrestler and the place that they are, the environment that they're in my opinion.
Sure. I mean, you said JT responded to you saying, they encourage you to wrestle us at other places. So if you had gone and say wrestled for AWE, right? That would have been a problem?
I don't think that would have done me any favors. Yeah. New Pro, fine. Box is ticked. AWE, no favors. ICW, no favors. It honestly depends on the quality of production of the product, in my opinion. I don't want to put words in people's mouths. I don't want to speculate beyond that. But I definitely felt there were places that were, this is okay. You can approach these people. And there were other places that were not okay. And you cannot approach these people.
But was that detailed to you, or was that more?
No, that was just shit that I had to pick up as a fucking vibe.
Jeez.
Yeah. Look, like I said, as a promotion, it's their prerogative. They can do whatever they want to do.
Of course.
As a gym, as a customer of the Pro Wrestling Academy, I feel that's a disservice. But if you want to go to a place and you want to learn to be a good wrestler, go to the fucking Pro Wrestling Academy. That's the thing. This would be so much easier if they didn't teach me shit. I could just complain and whinge the whole time. But I cannot deny that in my debut, on that ICW Central West card, I was the second best wrestler on that card. And I know that from High Octane, the Vortex. He sent me a fucking message that was my nomination for Match of the Year. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
In my debut. So that's what they can do for you. I think if the approach was more open, if there was more like encouragement to spread out amongst the promotions of Sydney, that would be an overall good for the professional wrestling of Sydney.
But that's the thing. It's like, I feel like there's too many people that have the mentality in wrestling where my beef, and if you're with me, then my beef is your beef. and that is it's the dumbest way. Like, I mean, I've had online beefs with certain companies and stuff like that, but if a friend of mine was going to say, I won't go work for that company because you've got a problem with it, I say, well, that's my business, not yours. Like, go get paid, boo. Like, go get that booking, go get that time in the ring. Like, why don't I would never encourage anyone to take on my beefs.
Exactly. Look, I don't understand wrestling. I will be honest. I do not understand the socio-fucking political environment that wrestling has become, because I came from a very open one. Prodigy MMA and Artarmon, great relationships with every gym in Sydney. 2800 in Orange, we were the fucking island of misfit toys. We had guys who were ex-Kumai Ryu, we had guys who were ex-Pollets. They would come to us whenever their relationship with that gym had broken down, and we wouldn't ask, we wouldn't do anything, we would just let them train. And like I said, we had killers coming through there. Google who the fuck Charlie Bubb is. Google who the fuck Jesse Astil is. These were guys that we had at 2800. We didn't make either of those fighters, but they came to us because we were open and we gave them a place to train. And it was best. It was good for all of us because we all made each other better.
Iron sharpens iron.
Exactly. And in martial arts, I have a good relationship with every MMA gym that I've ever been to. I can walk into anywhere and they'll say, hey, Alistair, it's been fucking 6 months or a year or however long it's been. It's great to see you. We trust you to roll, if that makes any sense. You're not going to fuck anybody up. Just have a good time on the mats. I don't think I have that relationship with PWA anymore. I definitely fucking won't after this comes out. But that's wrestling. It's
do you honestly think what you said is anything that bad? Like in all reality of it, I mean, like I'm sitting here listening to the conversation, and I'm like, it's not like you're saying anything that's, oh my god, how bad is that? Like,
oh, exactly. Like I'm not telling you that JT's ripping up the mats and putting rats under there or anything. Fucking like no. Nothing bad happened, but because it's wrestling, because we got this idea of heat, and I blame it on heat. I genuinely think that we've mythologized petty interpersonal bullshit and given it this special word and imagine that it means something. No, it fucking doesn't. If I go to anybody outside of wrestling with a wrestling problem, they look at me like I'm a fucking idiot because it's dumb. Everything we fight, like, okay, there's genuine personal problems between people who are in the wrestling fucking thing. People have assaulted each other and whatever. That's not heat. That's, an assault. That's Mikey Lord punching Wesley Williams in the head or whatever. That's fine. That you can be angry about that. You can agree to not work together for that reason. But we've developed heat over tiny shit, and we idolize people who have developed heat over tiny shit. Fucking, like, the fact that I know this story, like, tells you that pro wrestling's dumb. I know that Shawn Michaels got fucking Marty Jannetty fired because he sold the wrong arm one night, because that's heat, and he thought that was important enough to put in his own fucking autobiography. No! That's bullshit. It doesn't fucking matter.
Wrestling can be so fucking petty.
It's just silly. And I think because amateur psychologist here, I dropped out of psychology. I never finished, so I could be talking out my ass, but I'm going to fucking go on an unnecessary theory here. I think it comes into the fandom of wrestling as well. It's the inability to disassociate the real feelings that we had about the fake wrestling moments. How big it was when Steve Austin won the title or fucking stunted whoever he stunted at whatever time. Those big moments. We look at those but we know they're fake. We know they're not real. So we look at the real things about wrestling. So the heat, the backstage bullshit, the random assaults, the whatever else. The ratings, we obsessing about the ratings. We obsess about the things that were real. And we give those even more importance. We give those enough importance to line up with the big emotional feeling that we had at the big wrestling moment.
Yeah.
No! Don't! they're fucking nothing. They're not important. It's not real. It's all petty. And I'd love it if we'd all just stop. And I think we could all make it so much better if we all just stopped and look at the hobby that we now have and thought about building it as a hobby to the point that we can make money from it again, rather than holding on to.
But and that's worldwide. Like I remember Alan Funk, who wrestled as Kiwi in WCW, when he first went up to Nitro from the power plant, he got heat, quote unquote heat, with Perry Saturn. And it's like, because he turned up, right? And he was like, Alan went and shook everyone's hands, and Perry was with his wife and kids. So Alan's like, oh, I don't want to disturb him. I'm going to leave him be.
Yeah.
And then next day in catering comes up, you motherfucker, who do you fucking think you are? Because you didn't shake my hand. And Alan's like, what the fuck? It's like, all because he didn't come up and do the fucking limp-wristed handshake.
When he didn't know the fucking guy. And the handshakes too.
No, they knew
shake
each
your
other.
fucking hand. Put your hand out there. Actually grip back, for the love of God. If we have to do it, if I have to engage in this fucking ritual at the start of every event, please give me some grip back and tell me that you mean it, rather than we're just fucking, it's the fucking worst. Look, that's a decent rant. I've gone on that one.
No, Dad, I thought that was really, really
You can
funny.
clip that one. That could be Alistair Fleming loses his mind on thing. Oh, hold on.
Alistair loses his mind over him. Shoots on shaking hands.
Fuck. No, I want it to be better. I want this thing that we do to be at the point where we can have a job. And I want more people to wrestle. I want more shows with bigger crowds. All of what I say is not, oh, I want to break people down. I don't want people to sign up to wherever. No, I want these things to be better. I want this to be genuine fucking feedback. And the 40 people that will watch, who are all professional wrestlers, hopefully will take this and look at it and think about something. Because I'm not a wrestling native. I didn't grow up in this. I wasn't really a fan of wrestling until after I'd become a fan of MMA. Fuck. 1 second. In this environment, I was not originally a wrestler. I have come from another business that has a whole hobbyist entry. And that hobbyist entry, as an amateur fighter, the shows can make money. Tell me that Urban wasn't making money. Tell me that Ashkan and Suman don't drive really nice fucking cars. Tell me that Storm, who is the smartest man in fucking business from what I can figure, given that he was the only MMA promotion standing in fucking Canberra after they changed the regulations. He was the only man that kept up. Brace fucking died. Tell me that guy is still doing it after not making money. No. You can make money from an amateur MMA show.
Absolutely.
You can make money from a wrestling show. I just don't think that doing it the same way that we've been doing it for so long and holding on to this shit, this ball of traditions and fucking stuff that's metastasized at the center of the hobby is a good idea. I think maybe I'll get accused of chucking the baby out with the bathwater, but we've already thrown the baby out. The baby is making money as a professional wrestler. That's fucking gone. All we're left with is bathwater.
Absolutely. But you know what? It's interesting. Like I commentate on a lot of MMA, boxing, and Muay Thai events as well. And it's like I sit there and go, how can we get the same audience from an amateur boxing fight, the same amount of people? Because you see an amateur fight, like you can get like 400, 500, maybe 600. Like that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And if wrestling shows average, we worked out to be what, 120 to 150 for an average show in Sydney, right? How could we get that audience? Or even when you look at like Elimination Chamber having 60,000 people, 5% of that audience, 5,000 something people to come to a regular show.
Look, I don't think that there's only 200 wrestling fans in all of Sydney. That can't be true. There's 2 fucking million people here. There's an issue of, I'm going to call it advertising that'll actually reach the people that it's supposed to reach people. Maybe with social media that's starting to work. I don't know. That's not my area of expertise. But I think there are promotional tools that are not necessarily being used to their full effect. I'm going to continue to ruin my relationships with professional wrestling companies. FWA. run by fight. I don't remember seeing a single promo leading up to any of his events. I've seen match graphics. I've seen very nice match graphics with fucking dragons and magma and all sorts of shit. But I don't remember a single wrestler looking at the camera and saying, I'm fighting X for X reason, you should come. What are you doing? As a wrestler, okay, if I get booked, my booking fee is not big. It's $60 fucking dollars. If you can't pay me $60, don't ask me to turn up. You get 3 things. You get 1, wrestling match, obviously. 2, you get a fucking promo. I'm a professional wrestler. It's what I have to do. It's the job. It doesn't matter how far out. It might just be me sitting in front of the mats, just put with my fucking mouth guard doing the MMA fighter thing. That's fine, but you get a promo, and then you get me as ring crew, and you get a fucking competent human being who knows how to use a screwdriver. That's an important thing. If you can't, if you're booked on a show and you're not doing ring crew and you're not fucking filming a promo, why are they paying you? Genuine. Because you can't fucking wrestle in a crowd with no people that looks like shit, and you're not going to use that footage. And you can't wrestle in a place that has no ring, that has no lights, that has no cameras. This is a hobby. You want to engage in your hobby, do the fucking work. And the training, I enjoy wrestling training. It's fun. It's an enjoyable experience. People come on here and tell you that it's a fucking grind and whatever else. Getting the shit kicked out of me at ATT is a grind, and I fucking love that. I enjoy training. I enjoy learning these things. I enjoy becoming competent.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy carrying a fucking ring. That's the work that is required to earn my $60 and to have my match in front of the crowd, which I enjoy doing because it's a hobby. If I don't enjoy wrestling, the fuck am I doing? Because it's not worth $60 the amount of time.
For sure. 100%. Like a wrestling, like a show day for like, when me and Nathan go on a show, it's almost like a 12-hour adventure. By the time we go and have dinner and everything afterwards, it's like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a long day.
Yeah, I felt bad with the Cowra show because I couldn't get there early enough to do crew. I felt shit that I had robbed James High Octane of his money. Because that's what I am. I am not only a wrestler, I'm a fucking crew member. And if you want to, not that my respect means fucking anything, but if we're on a show together and I've set up the ring and I've put up the cameras and whatever, and I see you rock up at 10 minutes to ring time, not set up for your own match, barely select few people's hands and then go off and do your own thing. The fuck are you doing? Why are you here? You obviously don't enjoy it. And you're obviously not putting in the work.
But you see that more often than not for a majority of people. Like, not a majority of people, but a majority of shows, I should say.
You don't see that at Wrestle Strong Dojo. But because the show wouldn't fucking happen. I think that's a good thing. I think the fact that the entire roster is necessary in order to get everything set up actually fucking works in the advantage, because everyone has put the effort in to require the show to be a success. And I don't think you can look at their product over the past 4 years and not say that things have gotten way fucking better. I remember going to the first event of theirs I saw was the Bonnie Rig Rumble. Adam won the Fighters title, and I thought, that's okay. This was a show.
Yeah.
Now I think they have solid wrestlers putting on solid matches. Everyone is confident.
I've never seen any of their stuff.
The problem is they're a year behind on their YouTube. So they've got last year's stuff's coming up. And that's the danger of putting on as many shows as they have when you've got one person editing and putting things up.
Yeah.
It's so much work to catch up on that. I should probably help out with that. I actually have Sony Vegas, so I might as well, put my hand up for that. Lisa, I'm your guy. You got to pay me money.
Oh, you said the dirty word in wrestling, money.
Money. It's okay. It's either hobby wrestling or professional wrestling. We're currently in a fucking limbo. But sewing is my hobby. I make money from my hobby. I make lots and lots of gear that goes lots and lots of places. It's not a shame to charge for your hobby, in my opinion. If you're of an adequate quality, that it's worth paying you. And if I'm not worth $60, don't book me.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. I mean, I think as well, because wrestling is so subjective, and people like what they like. And it's like some people might go, okay, cool, Alistair, the Iron Box fighter. Okay, this gimmick I like. Someone else will go, it's another MMA gimmick.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, mine's not a gimmick.
I'm not shitting on it. I'm just sort of explaining.
No, I understand. Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same with me and Nathan when Vinny Vane, sorry, to use his government name. Some promoters go, they want to book him. We don't really see the point of a manager. Okay, like it's no. Oh, my heart is broken. It's just how they envision their show, how they envision a particular thing to go, and just go, it is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Back to uncontroversial statements that hopefully, won't ruin my reputation and whatever else, but might because it's heat. Not that long. Injuries. Fuck. Okay. I think it's another wrestling thing. I think it comes from when we had to hold on to your job as a wrestler. You had to work through an injury. You had to whatever.
Sure.
Now, not worth it at all. Matt Boynton wrestled UGG a little while ago in a 6-man, tore his bicep. Grade 2 tear, not a full separation. If he'd have taken 6 weeks off, he'd have been okay. He didn't. He went up to Newey. He wrestled in the Rumble. Grade 3 tear. Shit rolled up like a projector screen from the 1950s.
Geez.
It was inside a sleeve because he was like, oh, my arm's hurt. I'm going to put a sleeve on. But it was not good. And he's been out since. I saw some footage of him doing like stuntman work on Adam's page a little while ago. I'm glad to see he's back.
Yeah.
But he felt like he needed that spot so bad on a Newey Rumble where he didn't have any storyline. He didn't have anything super important to be doing. And there were 10 other wrestlers at that place. I was another wrestler there.
Yeah.
Like I was in a battle royal because we had so many extra spares. We had a battle royal and then a Royal Rumble on the same show. There were enough. It was a really fun Rumble. It was a great show. I enjoyed watching it. I got to be a pickle. I got thrown at fucking J-Law.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great show. But he didn't need to do it. There was no reason for him to wrestle that hurt. You don't need to do that for $60. And you don't see that in MMA, except at the top level where they're fucking broke. Like TJ Dillashaw with his dislocating shoulder.
Yeah.
He was like, he had to make that fight. Otherwise, he wasn't making his house payments. No one's getting house payments from professional wrestling.
No.
I apologize for using Matt Boynton's name in this, but he is an example. He is a man that I respect. I enjoy watching him wrestle. No one's not going to book Matt Boynton for the fact that I've said that he wrestled with a torn bicep.
No.
Still. Why?
But it's
what good came of it?
But that's why, like, I've always said about, like, the deathmatch shit. Like, why would someone go and carve themselves up and cut their ass up for $60 and sometimes not even get paid? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's, you know what I mean? At some point, I feel like you're not, like, and in front of, what, 50 people? Like,
there is diminishing returns to everything we do in wrestling. And look, to be honest, a deathmatch is not for me. I don't think that is something that I will do at any point in my career. Because what I do does not... I hope that what I do has enough meaning behind it that I don't need to elevate it to the point where I need to be drawing blood on another human being. Either the hard way or with, a tuber or whatever else. It's just not something that I'm going to do. Along that same line, this is a man that absolutely should have known better. Jack Bonza wrestled with a staph infection the size of my fucking fist, and that made me feel unwell. That was not okay. And I feel comfortable saying this because he put it on his fucking Instagram as promotional material for his next match. This is a man who does jiu-jitsu. He knows what staph is. He endangered his fucking life and his opponent's fucking health by taking him into a ring. If you are a wrestler and you have a mysterious lump that goo is coming out of, for the love of fucking God, do not wrestle. Jimmy Rave, I've never seen any of his wrestling work, but I saw this come up on Twitter, lost a fucking arm from a staph infection and then lost his other one and then fucking died. No.
He lost his legs.
He lost fucking...
That was arms or his leg? I think he lost
one arm, one leg. It was 2 limbs, which is enough. Staph will fuck you, will ruin your life, will make you never the same ever again. This has happened to so many MMA fighters. Kevin Randleman, you can look him up, and there's a photo of him with his underarm in the camera, and there's a hole this fucking big. That. Do not walk into a ring with that shit. And this is Jack Bonza, who owned PWA, who ran the show, who knew he'd run a show earlier the same day with 10 wrestlers that could have filled in his spot. Why did he feel the need to get into the ring? And I think it's that old mentality of, this is my spot. Fuck, I have to hold on to this thing so hard. There's enough room. There's enough shows. There's enough time. Especially if you own the show. If you own the fucking show and you go, I need a week off, give yourself the week the fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, if you're running the show, you can definitely do that. And staph infection as well is just it's so infectious, and it's like and contagious, and oh man, like it's. I'm surprised he'd even have the strength to go in there and wrestle with it, though.
I don't know why he did it. I don't know why Matt Boyden wrestled with the fucking torn bicep. I cannot form it in my mind. I remember fucking back as a rookie, just back as in core at the PWA Academy. I saw two guys come in, and I looked at them and I said, you have staph, you need to leave immediately. And they're like, what do you mean, Alistair? I fucking grabbed them, I grabbed Ricky, and I was like, these two guys need to go to a doctor. They didn't believe me. They went to a doctor. They came back They came back 2 weeks later after going through a full course of antibiotics. They're like, you were right, Alistair. We don't know enough because we don't do enough shoot grappling. We don't look at the reality of what we're supposed to be doing. But Jesus Christ, do not bring staph into a professional wrestling environment. What the fuck are you doing?
No, I got staph once from training at Anytime Fitness. Yeah, no shit. And you know what? I would wear compression tights, tracksuit pants over the top of it because I want to get a sweat on when I'm training and stuff. And it's wherever I train, always have a towel. And I always see people not using stuff without towels and shit. And it's and I'm sitting there, and that was the one thing I was like, oh, that's exactly where I would have got it from, is the gym.
Yeah. And look, I understand from a professional wrestling point that this is your spot. You've worked so hard to get it, whatever. But if you didn't, if people were taking a little bit of time off every now and then for injury, there would be more spots opening up for newer guys or for other people to have bigger matches. They wouldn't have to have held onto that spot so hard. They wouldn't have felt like it was such a hard thing to get. They would feel free to take time off for their injuries. So there'd be more spots. From where I sit, it's a nasty cycle of people holding on too tight to something that they've had to work so hard to earn. We can just make it a little bit easier to earn by taking time off when we need it.
But that's even the point whenever we see really big shows, big super shows and stuff like that, we're seeing the same Australian talent getting booked in those spots. And it's okay, so for years, these guys have been getting these and girls have been getting these opportunities. They're still here. You know what I mean? So why not then look at, okay, let's have a look at some of the younger generation that's in Australian wrestling. Let's have a look at someone different. Let's try and highlight something different to show, hey, we're more than just X. We're more than just Y. We're also W and T and S and all the other letters of the alphabet you can imagine, and showcase other people, where I feel like there's very much a strong hold on that.
Yes. But then again, all right, if you've been in Australia for, excuse me again, if you've been in Australia for 10, 12 years, you're at the peak, the pinnacle of Australian wrestling. No one's watching. I mean that. No one's watching. The outside world barely knows. The most traction we've got was because Sir Lariato retweeted us one time or two times or however many times. That was what's gotten us noticed. Someone from outside with a previous relationship with someone who works overseas.
Yeah.
Soon as I have $3,000 to rub together, I'm sending fucking messages to Hikaru Sato, to Minoru Tanaka, to whoever runs a show in Japan, just saying, this is who I am, this is where I train, these are my matches. As soon as I have enough money, because that's part of the goal. My dream match isn't fucking WrestleMania. It's versus Yusuke Fuke, a UWF young boy who's still going at 56 years old in Dotonbori Pro. No one knows what Dotonbori Pro is.
I have no idea who that guy is or what.
Exactly.
And I sit there going like, gee,
Who the fuck?
the wrestling nerdism is just amazing. The fact, like, I hear some people like saying these Japanese names. I'm like, I have no idea who that is.
Exactly, and no one has any idea who that is. But that, if I go to Japan and I have that match, that will give me more traction overseas than most shows in Australia. The times that I can think of, like an actual scout coming, were EPW Super Show, because they were running a show, and Matty Wahlberg getting signed because somebody came and watched Coliseum because they saw him on Survivor, because they saw him in something outside of wrestling.
Yep.
Yeah, and our best wrestlers, they go overseas, and then when they come back, they have more cred, they have more fucking clout, they can demand higher bookings. You look at your Robbie Eagles, you look at your Backman, got even better bookings after spending his time in America. Shazza is now living in America because that's how she knows she's going to hopefully get that shot again. It's not going to happen here. They're not watching. We're not going to get noticed. If you want to get booked, seen, get the fuck out there and make something of yourself. And again, that was a thing that I felt at PWA. I was waiting to get noticed. I was waiting to get seen. I was waiting for something that I was doing to get me that look, to get me that in. It wasn't going to happen. I got to go out and I got to make it.
Do you think you could go back to a PWA and train there?
Yeah.
Would you want to? Like, if
look, if it is an excellent place to learn to be a wrestler. I'm sure that if I went back and I learned more, I would be a better wrestler afterwards. But currently, I don't want to be a better wrestler. I want to be a busier wrestler. And for 2 years since my in-ring debut, I had 12 matches.
Wow.
Not very many. I have, that was across 4 different promotions. With one promotion that I'm currently with, and 2 of those I got heat for doing. With one promotion that I currently have a relationship with, I'm looking at 20, 21. And then that's not counting Newey. That's not counting going back down and doing more metas. From where I am currently sitting, as a 31-year-old man who the Federation is never coming for, I just want to do this for fun. I want to have an enjoyable time wrestling. I don't want to feel weird. I don't want to be chasing some sort of nebulous fucking idea of a big shot, because a big shot is never going to happen. That's a terrible dream to have as a person in my position. If the hope is that I haven't damaged the relationship too bad. Ha! Not anymore, because I've been on Beers Austin. But look, I don't think I've said anything unnecessarily controversial, but they don't want me back. They obviously didn't want me while I was there. I probably don't want to go back. What's the point of wanting something that doesn't want you?
Sure. And that's definitely one way to look at it. And look, I don't think you've said anything too negative or like majorly impactful here, not majorly impactful, but like majorly controversial to the point where I think it would raise any, I'm going to say that word again, heat for you.
Fuck it.
But I feel like this has been a very honest conversation. You've been very direct with your answers.
Look,
but this is also like, was your experience. And I feel like your experience is different from other people's as well. So it's like, there's always, not everyone's experience at the same place is always going to be positive.
Exactly. And look, I got to be kind now to the promotion. In that period, rookie progression was not what they were looking for. They had just lost 2 years. They were trying to catch that 2 years back up. They were giving opportunities to guys that had been rookies in that time and were becoming wrestlers. They had the Tamashi shows to worry about, and a lot of focus was going towards them. What we were as paying customers of the Pro Wrestling Academy was not necessarily their goal as a business at the time, which they're allowed to have. It's their prerogative as a promotion. I think maybe they need to slice the 2 pieces in half. They need to look at the promotion. They need to look at the academy, because the academy is a great fucking place to learn to be a wrestler. It would be so much easier if it wasn't. It's a great place to learn to be a wrestler. And if they slice that off and they go, all right, this is an unaffiliated academy, but that sends people to PWA, and open up a dialogue and a relationship with other promotions in the state where they send people that they don't necessarily have a hope for. Those people can do good things. Look at what Jay Sorbet has done with rock and roll. Look how good Jay Sorbet is. How fucking good is Jay Sorbet?
I love Jay's work. I think he's phenomenal.
Exactly.
And he's been at PWA for so long, and the fact that he isn't booked like on a consistent basis there is like it leaves me scratching the head to think like, but as well as like he's one of the sweetest human beings in the world as well. It's like, what person would actually have any kind of beef with?
I don't think it's beef. I just think they look at Jay and they look at what they want on a PWA show and they don't see it, and that's their prerogative as a promotion. But as an academy, they're taking Jay's money from where I sit.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And you know, by stopping people from working other places, it's like you're paying for a service from them, not the other way around.
Exactly. And so, look, this comes from a very different perspective. I come from an MMA perspective where, due to the nature of the sport as it was when it was coming up, openness was hugely important because we didn't know what the Brazilians knew. So if somebody came from overseas who'd spent 2 weeks at a fucking Gracie gym, your gym was open to that guy. And it was a very open business for a very long time. This is happening less and less. People are starting to close off. You've got your like little ecosystems growing up, which I don't necessarily like. Do I? You know what? I'm never going to train this or whatever. A good friend of mine, Ben Hayward, runs a gym called Hayward Jiu-Jitsu in Bathurst. We used to train together at 2800. And this guy, when I first met him, like, this guy is trying too hard. He's going to burn out in 6 weeks. Yeah. He has leapfrogged me twice. Like, we got blue belts at the same time. He's gone purple brown. He's opened up his own gym. But when 2800 closed down due to COVID, he moved to Bathurst and he started training at a place called Precision Martial Arts. And he was running their jiu-jitsu class because they didn't really have one. He always said from the day he walked in there, I want to open my own gym. This is kind of just a stopover for me. I appreciate you giving me the mats. I'm going to do what I can for your place, but I am eventually going to go and open my own gym. He did that. He got to the end. He said, all right, it's time. I found a warehouse and whatever. I bought some mats. I'm off. I'm going. Precision said, okay, cool. Bye. And then a week later, sent him a text. We do not want to see you again. If you coach any of our students, we're going to hit you with like this NDA that we put in your thing. None of your students are allowed to come here. Any member of yours isn't allowed to come here. His reply to that was, it's a very karate thing of you to do. Because Precision Martial Arts started off as just a pure karate gym. And those old attitudes, those old closed attitudes are starting to creep back into mixed martial arts. And I fucking hate it. I don't like seeing it. Because it's better for the sport if you're open. It makes it all better. Everyone can grow. Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get the best out of people. I mean, like, obviously there's going to be gyms that are like, have some sort of tension and stuff like that. And that makes, you know, interesting fights. But as well, like if you're all around in the same precinct or the same area or the same like surrounding suburbs, why not embrace that and just make it as best for your members, you know, your fighters, your trainers or trainees or whatever it may be.
Well, same thing happened in Orange. In Orange, we had 2800. There was High Impact, which was just a Muay Thai gym, so we didn't really have to worry about them. Then there was Pollitt's. Pollitt's had the mixed martial arts criteria or whatever.
Yeah.
We'd have a black belt come down because at the time of opening the gym, Greg was only blue, but he had a black belt in judo and whatever else. But he knew he wasn't good enough to bring everybody along. He knew he needed to bring in people. So every couple of months, black belt would come down for a weekend, pay $25, you get graded, and you'd have a comp day. That was open to every gym in the Central West area. We'd have people come from Young, we'd have people come from Cara, we'd have people come from Bathurst. Yeah. Not one Pollitt's member walked through the door.
Really?
Not one. And because it was closed, because it's a closed system, because that would get them fucking heat. That would get them petty interpersonal bullshit that they went and saw what another gym was like. I see that the fact that I have come from that openness, that willingness to see other people, that sort of effort to make it all grow together, because there's no point being crabs in a bucket, in my opinion. that if I see that that sort of attitude in professional wrestling, I do not like to see it.
Mm.
And I saw that, and so I had to wrap it up and go.
Yeah. It's crazy how people can just be, man. Like, I don't know if it's protective of the business or their business or whatever it may be, but it's just like by restricting people, I just feel like all you're doing is just holding people back. And you're not putting the business or even your sport in the best way to succeed.
I think, again, I'm going to play devil's advocate because this is a word that Robbie had to me, was there is not the worry of us going out and getting hurt. That's our prerogative. We're allowed to go out and get hurt. It's that we go out and we do something we're not ready for and we hurt somebody else. But my objection to that was we were trained specifically not to fucking do that. If we were like doing a spot at the end of training, it was like, oh, do you know how to do that move? And if the answer was not 100%, I've done it 10 times, you didn't put the fucking move in the spot.
Mm.
And I think perhaps, I don't know if there was a previous incident with a professional wrestling academy student where he went out before he was ready and injured somebody or got injured. If that was there, maybe I would understand that shyness, that, what do you want to call it? That apprehension.
Yeah.
But not the way we were trained. We were trained to be very good wrestlers. We are trained to be very good wrestlers. PWA, the Pro Wrestling Academy, makes a fucking great wrestler. If you want to learn to be a fucking great wrestler, go to the Pro Wrestling Academy. Yeah, it'd be so much easier if they didn't teach me shit. If that makes sense.
Oh man, well look, man, this has been a fun conversation, man. I really appreciate you jumping on and talking with me on an episode of True Story, man. But tell me, where can everyone find you on social media? Where can they contact you if there's any wrestlers that are watching, and they are watching? Where can they find you to get in contact to get some gear?
All right, let's do the whole plug. So if you want to follow my wrestling Instagram, it is at IronBoxFighter, all spelled correctly. If you want to look up the wrestling gear that I've done, it is at GCC Wrestling Gear. Ah, fuck!
So, yep.
All right, if you want to find me as a wrestler, it is at IronBoxFighter. That's on Instagram. If you want to find me as a gear maker, it is at GCC Wrestling Gear. You'll see all the stuff, well, not all the stuff. I'm super behind on all my photos, but you'll see some highlights of the stuff that I've made. Does not matter where you're wrestling. Doesn't matter what level of wrestler you are. You send me a message. I'll try and fit you in. If you want to watch me yelling over some old school shoot fights, I actually have a YouTube channel that is Gentlemen's Combatives. If you Google old school shoots, you'll see me talking about some matches on the Gentlemen's Combatives YouTube channel. So
that's your YouTube.
That's fucking me. That's me. That's me.
Yeah, you've commented on a few of the videos.
I've worked your beers the whole time.
I was like, is that who I think it is? And I'm like, wait. I was just like, I don't dig too deep in it, to be honest.
There you go. And you can also see me on the comments of Piers Austin's live streams talking shit. So there you go. That's the whole spiel.
Well, man, look, I appreciate you coming on, man. We definitely have to do this again sometime soon. But guys, make sure you go and follow Alistair, the Iron Box Fleming, on all social media, on Instagram. Go make sure you give him a follow. But this is True Story, greatest podcast in the world. Till next time, take care. All the best. Mwah. Peace out, bitch ass motherfuckers.